Tonight, after 10 months behind bars in Russia, WNBA star Brittney Griner is coming home. Seen here on Russian state video.
Do you know where I'm heading to?
No.
No?
No.
You fly back home.
WNBA star Brittney Griner is back home from Russia after serving 10 months of what was a 9-year sentence for carrying vape canisters that allegedly had cannabis oil. Now, across America and really much of the Western world, that kind of drug possession prison sentence was widely viewed as extreme, obviously unjust. Indeed, it's the absurd sentence there that underscores why Griner was validly viewed as a political prisoner. Just to spell that out, if you imagine a different American was convicted based on facts for a crime that really did merit 9 years, say a violent offense caught on video with no justification, then they wouldn't legally be a political prisoner, even if they did the bad thing in a legal system located in a country that the U.S. views as an adversary, like Russia. And while some Republicans are now trying to attack the details of the Biden swap, the fact is, and we have the public record, many people viewed this as wrong. They joined the broader consensus that this sentence was unjust. Now, much of that makes sense. Indeed, you could look across the discussion of this from when it first came down, if you remove just the super right-wing partisans, and you would find people saying, Putin, 9 years against an athlete because of a vape canister of pot? I mean, this is obviously unfair. And that scans. That's relatable as a matter of justice. Now, take a listen.
WNBA star Brittney Griner convicted today on drug charges in Russia. A judge sentencing her to 9 years in a penal colony.
Close to 10 years in prison. That is injustice.
That's an American citizen that does not belong in jail for 9 years.
Brittney Griner should never have had to stand trial, let alone be sentenced to nearly a decade behind bars.
I feel bad because the sentence is 5 to 10 years. They made it seem like she had like pounds of marijuana on her.
This would not happen in the United States of America.
That's just a sampling of what I was describing to you, that it was widespread views that this was egregious as a sentence, and that includes conversation on Fox News back before folks were trying to politicize the Biden part. Much of that makes sense and is relatable. You may have noticed that last sweeping claim, though, quote, this wouldn't happen in the United States. False. This happens in the United States. This, if by this we mean harsh draconian drug sentences for mere possession, has been happening for a long time. And even now, as some states legalize pot and there's a push for a more treatment-oriented approach to drug possession or use, the drug war is alive and well in America. I've told you that before. Police make over 1 million arrests a year for drug possession alone. That fixation on possession is still an endemic part of how policing works in America. That means apart from, say, dealing drugs or violence that could be linked to drugs, which are very serious felonies, the possession obsession drives extreme sentences in the U.S. with no Putin in sight. I mean this quite literally. This isn't something where I'm sort of drawing a connection to Russia. I'm telling you the news. Here's someone you may not hear about as much as Ms. Griner. A man named Alan Russell. Mississippi authorities sentenced him to many, many years because he was convicted of only marijuana possession, not distribution or anything else. But under the state laws, again, no Putin down there in the South, his previous separate criminal record was what was used to escalate the punishment. Even though legally he already did his time for prior offenses, one of them, by the way, was that he was found to possess a firearm, but unlawfully. As you may know, tens of millions of Americans possess many, many guns, some of them unlawfully. But they didn't get in trouble with the authorities down there. He did. Mississippi prosecutors threw the book at him for that marijuana that's now legal in so many places, about half of the U.S. states. Now, I told you this one case as an example, and I said many years. Okay, how many? How many years for marijuana possession in the U.S.? All of them. He's serving life behind bars. And you may say, well, that sounds extreme. Did anyone try to challenge this to check beyond the South or Mississippi? Is this really allowed under U.S. law? Yeah, they did try. It went up to the Mississippi Supreme Court, judges, not politicians, and they affirmed the ruling just this year, finding that life sentence for pot, that's way past Putin, did not qualify as, quote, cruel and unusual punishment. And under our court system, that was the last word. The Supreme Court did not intervene there, nor have they in other similar cases where drug possession gets something that you might call supersized Putin. So you look at that, and you look at what we're doing in this country, and you say, yes, of course, the Putin example has some differences, including the obvious political agenda of Putin. But the sentence is what everyone was outraged about. If they're outraged about it over there, why aren't you outraged about it over here? This is how prison works day in and day out in America. Leave Putin out of it for a second and look at the facts. 1 in 5 incarcerated individuals are there on drug charges, 20% of inmates. A lot of these are old laws that continue to be enforced and disproportionately against poor and minorities. So again, there is a drug war, but it's not a drug war against all Americans. New York Times recently did touch on this issue, discussing the failed war on drugs and highlighting there are some reforms still in the works. The Equal Act, for example, would try to once and for all end the disparity for drug offenses between different types of drugs, which are one of the ways that there is discrimination against poor and minorities. That bill would reverse the disparity that was began back in the Reagan era in the 80s that was going after specifically crack cocaine with the racial politics of the time. Black Americans convicted for 80% of those convictions, despite the fact that 2/3 of all people who smoke crack are white. Let me repeat. 2/3 of all people in the United States who smoke crack are white, but they're not being arrested and convicted and jailed this way. Now, some senators are actually pushing to get this passed before the year ends. And there is a wider shift here, I will note, in some of the attitudes towards how we use the prisons and how drugs fit in, especially marijuana, which is basically half legal in our weird system where different states call it different ways. That's why the president recently pardoned people who had old marijuana possession records, which itself is a big deal. That would have been hard to imagine politically by a centrist Democrat like Biden even 10 or 20 years ago. But that was a marker. It didn't actually release anyone from prison, like the individual I mentioned tonight, or others serving this way. Those are state cases. The president, under federalism, can't do anything about those, even if he wanted to. So while many people came together here and said, Putin bad, extreme drug sentence bad, opposing that, good, we don't have yet the ability to look in the mirror and see the exact same thing happening in our own country, where we need to address this even without some foreign boogeyman. Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.